Last week, I introduced the idea that every Christian can continue the life of Jesus Christ in his or her own life. As St. John Hughes taught, this is not just a symbolic or historical remembering, the way reenactors act out famous battles or other significant events in history. According to John Hughes, the life of Jesus on earth is not something that was lived once and for all 2,000 years ago. It's still being lived in us. Although he recognized human sins and faults, the theology of John Hughes is based on an optimistic view that sharing in the divine life of Jesus is possible for ordinary Christians like us. But how is this union with Christ achieved? He taught that the believer is united to Christ both spiritually and bodily. Spiritual union is achieved through the faith received in baptism. John Hughes attached enormous importance to this sacrament. I love these lines from his teaching. When you were baptized, Jesus pledged to give you his Spirit and his divine heart, to be the spirit of your spirit and the heart of your heart. At the time of your baptism, the Son of God pledged himself to love and treat you as part of himself, bone of his bones, flesh of his flesh, spirit of his spirit. Jesus pledged to love us and treat us, you and me, as part of himself. Isn't that amazing? Doesn't that speak volumes about our dignity as children of God? He tells the faithful that they should do everything possible to avoid sin, which dishonors and can even break the covenant they have entered into with God in baptism. He encourages them to praise and thank God for the grace of baptism, especially each year as the anniversary of their baptism approaches. The second way that we are incorporated into Jesus is physically through the Eucharist. John Hughes wrote that the Eucharist expresses Jesus' burning desire to dwell within our hearts and bodies. He wants to be within you, he wrote. Do we think about that when we receive communion day after day or week after week? Do we realize how much Jesus wants to dwell within us? If Jesus is within us through Holy Communion, John Hughes wrote, then he is our animating spirit, enabling us to live and walk in his ways, to be clothed in his sentiments, and to act as he acted during his earthly life. This week, let's take time to look back to our baptism and First Communion and thank God for these graces and for those who prepared us for them. And if we know any adults or children preparing for their sacraments of initiation, let's share with them our joy and enthusiasm at being members of the body of Christ.